Hello, hello. Hi, Sage. Thank you so much for inviting me to this interview. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us for the Deaf What interview. I'm happy to have you join us today. Can you tell us a bit about who you are? Sure. Hi, my name is Ryan Duchoeny. I'm deaf and I live in Ottawa. Before I moved here, I was born and raised in Montreal, Quebec. I've been here almost 4 years, and it's been a good experience. Now, you're an actor, right? Yes, that's right. I've been acting for about 7 years now. I love it. How did you get into acting? It's a funny story to share. It happened while I was at work. I'll rewind and start from there. After I was released from jail, I went through a bout of depression, eating disorders, and so I gained a lot of weight from all the trauma that I went through. I don't need to go into detail about my jail experience. So anyway, while I was at work, and I was working as a cashier, a man who works as a producer or a cameraman or something like that, he told me I look like an American. And I said, okay, I look like an American because I'm a little bit fat. That's fine. Doesn't matter to me. He was like, oh, I didn't mean to call you fat. I'm in the movie industry. And I was like, oh, okay. I was lost for a moment and it went over my head. I didn't really get the message. He then told me he wanted me to be involved with a movie or a TV show. And I was like, okay, sure. He gave me his business card. I emailed him with my information. He reached out to me and took me for a photo shoot to get my headshots done. I also got my profile established. They took my picture, took my measurements, etc. Whatever the industry needed from me, they got that. I did all of that stuff, and then I got my start on a television show called On the Basis of Sex. I never actually got to be on camera because there were too many people, and I got cut, and I went back home. The next show, I forget what it was called. I got a call to show up, and I was finally involved as a background actor. I liked it. It was a cool experience. I got paid well. It's not about the money, but the money's good. It comes with a good experience. Eventually, over time, I got called in by different casting companies to come in and work as a background actor. And that's how I got into acting. Wow, how many movies have you done so far? I'm not able to count. Probably over 100 shows, I'm sure. I can't remember all of their titles. Wow. I get offered contracts and then I show up. I work for the day. Sometimes I work for 3 or 4 days, just going with the flow. I have a really good time. So you recommend setting up a profile with headshots so casting people can discover you, right? Right. Wow, amazing. What's your favorite experience so far with acting? My favorite movie that I was involved with was called The Long Shot. Oh, I haven't watched that one yet. Is it a football movie? The movie had celebrities such as, no, it's about a gala. Really, I forget what the movie was about, as I was involved in so many movies. Seth Rogen was in it. Charlize Theron as well. I don't remember the other actors. It's one of my favorite movies to work in because I had an opportunity to work with another deaf man in the background. In proximity to famous actors, both Seth and Charlize. So, the casting director actually told us not to use sign language. And what happened is Seth actually told the director to leave us alone so that we could use sign language if we wanted to. So we used sign language in the background, and that was a cool thing. Not all background actors have to be hearing in all those movies. They could include deaf actors, hard of hearing actors, disabled actors. We need diversity in the industry, you know? So I feel honored that Seth Rogen said to leave it. Deaf people can be a part of the movies. And so that's why it's my favorite memory so far. I always get excited when I see deaf people signing in movies, even if it's in the background. I'm like pointing at the deaf actor. That type of representation is so incredibly important. So mostly you do background acting. Are there any productions where you sign or speak lines? I got my start with background acting, so I'm working on auditioning for acting roles. It's very challenging. A lot of people want to become an actor. Therefore, there's competition. I've already been involved with the industry. I've been cut. I've gotten callbacks. But sometimes at the final round, I get cut. Overall, it was a good experience. So far, I've always had a good time. No matter if the process was perfect or not, I'm always learning from my mistakes, and from that, I know what to do next time. Learning from your mistakes leads to perfection in the next stage, right? Yes, it's true. We are all always learning. Yes, always learning. I've already been involved with some big name opportunities, but I cannot tell you about that because industry policy requires me to be confidential. I was involved with these opportunities where I did a 7th round of callbacks. And then I was cut. Shucks. I understand it was because of my accent, and it's something I need to work on. They always have their own opinions. Some people prefer pure ASL, or someone with ASL and an accent. I'll always have my ASL accent because I grew up in a mainstream environment, being hard of hearing and deaf, so I don't feel deflated. But I am happy to see more deaf actors being in movies. I hope to see more than 100,000 deaf actors being involved with the industry. I absolutely agree. Sometimes I'm tired of watching hearing people all the time. Where are the disabled people, deaf blind people, etc.? Every time I watch Netflix, I always see hearing, able-bodied people. Where are the deaf people? That's my point. I would love to see a deaf channel or a deaf film company, something like that. It will happen soon. Yes, I hope so. There are some smaller companies that have potential for growth. It requires building a foundation from the bottom, and it takes time. So, since the pandemic hit, how did it impact your acting career? What did it look like? There was not much of an impact, really. However, in these what we would call shooting sets, we are required to wear masks. When the casting director or the writer or producer says ready prior to saying set, then we have to remove the masks. You have 3 seconds to do it. You cannot take time taking your mask off. You have 3 seconds to take it off and put it in your pocket. And when they say go, we have to be in action. When they say done, we have to put our masks back on. I'm fortunate to have some supportive people who would wave to me to indicate that it's time to put the mask back on. And they'll also tell me to put my mask back on, which I do. It's really good having that visual gestural communication. Don't forget, the set that we work on is huge. There are so many cameras around and people walking around. Obviously, we don't social distance because we're being in a movie. It's important to be aware that when you have to put your mask back on and when you have to have it off. And it's difficult sometimes because I'm deaf. There's so much noise happening, so it's nice to have someone who signals that kind of information. Signal for a mask off and signal for a mask on. It's very fluid, especially with good communication skills. Wow, thank you for sharing. You know, these days with the coronavirus, sometimes it's hard to communicate with masks on. Did you have any struggles with that, or? I didn't really have that experience. It was just that we needed to become familiar with the mask routine. We're working in the real world. Things happen. I hope coronavirus goes away as soon as possible so everything would work out. Do you have any advice for deaf actors? If you have a dream to become an actor, go for it. Don't be lazy, work hard. The acting industry is very competitive. I know because I'm in the industry. I don't sleep much because I have to study the script to memorize lines. I have to go to auditions. It's not easy. The industry is very challenging, especially as a deaf person, as they don't always provide sign language interpreters on a daily basis. Which means I have to figure it out all by myself, by becoming familiar with the material, a lot of reading, and translating the lines into ASL. Luckily, I do have some connections with ASL coaches who can offer some help and tips on how to translate from English to ASL, or vice versa. The script does not have any visual components to it. It's just words, 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 all in black and white. Sometimes I need visuals to help me. It's really teamwork, and I'm so fortunate to have the network where I can ask for assistance. Do you have an agent right now? Yes, I do have an agency that I work with. I'm very lucky to have them. Most of the time, background actors don't need an agent. One time, I was working on a set for one of the 4 Hallmark movies that I was working on. They had their own agency, and one of their people contacted me and wanted to represent me. They asked me, "Are you ready for more challenging roles?" And I was like, okay. They told me that I could work in commercials, television shows, Netflix, and modeling. I was like, why not? I signed up for it because I'm already involved with the industry. I really enjoy what I do so much. I'm curious, for a full day of filming, how many hours do you put in? It depends. Depends on the project. Sometimes I'm lucky and I only work 2 hours and then I go home. Sometimes you're stuck there for 20 hours because you got to do all the angles with the cameraman and all those breaks and meal times. Sometimes it is better to work longer hours so you can learn more about how to work better. Observe and incorporate that into your knowledge of what to do next time. It's good to learn how to convince the audience to show that you can act. If you work 20 hours, then how do you keep your energy up? Bring your laptop, your phone, reading materials. Every time I work on a movie set, I always bring my laptop and my phone, in case I get bored. With the pandemic, we're not allowed to socialize with others. They have separate tables for everyone. There are some people I'm familiar with because we've been working in the industry for a while. Sometimes I see new faces. It's nice to introduce ourselves to each other and interact in a welcoming environment. Most of the time, I know who I'm working with. Sometimes you get bored with all the talk and there's nothing to do. You can use your laptop, and we do have Wi-Fi access. You can read and do your homework, just your own thing. Sometimes I've noticed that in the film and theater industries, you spend a lot of time just waiting around for your turn. Right. Sometimes it feels like you're waiting forever until it's your turn to be filmed. The scene ends, cut, pass on to the next shoot, cut. You need a lot of patience. And don't forget, when you're working with the cameraman, we also have to change the position of that camera to get a variety of angles. Then we take a break. Yeah, it takes a lot of time. Imagine doing a 2-hour movie. You do all that filming quickly, but it's not like that. It takes a few months to complete all of that filming for a 2-hour movie. Yeah. Also, the role actors sometimes forget their lines, so we have to take a break while the actors memorize. Once they're ready, then we're able to continue filming. Or sometimes they're not satisfied with the audio, and they'd have to redo the audio until it's perfect. Scene 20, let's do it again. Cut. Cut, cut, cut. Right. Do you have one? Not yet. I have one of those. It's quite small, though, somewhere in my office. I hope that someday I'll have my own acting chair with my name plastered on it. Your name would be shiny. Oh, I'd love that. One day, perhaps. One day, absolutely. Keep on chasing goals, doing all those steps, climbing the ladder. It takes time, but you're already at a good start. I'm taking my time. I started having an agent in March of 2021. Before that, I worked in the industry for almost 7 years. A lot of patience was required. Also, I never thought about becoming a role actor. I never thought I'd have an agent. I met the right people at the right time, and I was happy to do these things, and the ball's been rolling. It's exciting. People will see more of you on TV. One day. I'll keep an eye out for you. I worked with Hallmark 4 times as background. So, hopefully, I'll become a role actor soon. I saw one picture where you were selling wreaths in that movie. Yes, that was a Christmas movie. That was the longest I've ever been on camera. I'm usually only on camera for 5 to 10 seconds, but it felt like a long time for that one. And when I handed the wreaths and worked, it was like 1 or 2 minutes, which is better than being on screen for a short time. Do you have any lines in that movie? Not yet. One day. You'll get there eventually. What gives you joy? I feel joy when there is a lot of casting directors in the movie industry who think about other people rather than focusing on hearing able-bodied actors. They're opening the doors for others, giving them chances. That's where I feel inspired. The majority of the time, I am working with hearing people. But when I see a deaf person come in for work, it gives me joy. It makes me happy knowing that we can chat in our language. Sometimes I see a disabled person and we're able to chat with each other. It's nice. It's fun to see those doors being opened, so other people are being given a chance. Are there any thoughts you want to share with the hearing world? Any advice? For the hearing world, please do not take on deaf or disabled roles if you're not a part of that community. Give deaf and disabled people roles that fit them. Allow deaf and disabled people to be involved in the industry, like me. I completely agree. Don't pretend to be deaf or disabled for other people. I agree, they should not be taking on these roles. Let us have our deaf roles, and I agree with more accurate representation. Do you have any thoughts you want to share with the deaf community? For the deaf community, if you have a dream or a goal for your future, don't be lazy. You gotta work hard. I worked so hard to become a role actor, and it's not easy. Go for it. I trust that you will make it if you work hard. I hope you agree. I agree, yes I do. Some people are lucky that they don't have to work hard. Some people just gotta work hard. Sometimes that's life. But yes, always invest your best effort into your work. I agree with that. Do you have anything else that you would like to share before we wrap up this interview? If you have goals, go for them. Those are my words. I agree. Thank you for coming to this interview. I want to express my gratitude to the Canada Council of the Arts for funding this project. Cheers. Thank you so much. Cheers.